Welcome to the 1000 Nights and 1 Night. Now, when it was the 789th night, she resumed, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the princess mounted and rode forth a hunting and a birding, after leaving in the palace their youngest sister sitting by Hassan's side. And as soon as the damsels knew that they had covered a long distance from home, she went in to him and said, O my brother, come show me the place where thou sawest the maidens. He rejoiced in her words, making sure of winning his wish, and replied, Bismillah, O my head. Then he essayed to rise and show her the place, but could not walk. So she took him up in her arms, holding him to her bosom, between her breasts, and opening the staircase door, carried him to the top of the palace, and showed her the pavilion where he had seen the girls, and the basin of water wherein they had bathed. Then she said to him, Set forth to me, O my brother, their case, and how they came. So he described to her whatso he had seen of them, and especially the girl of whom he was enamored. But hearing these words, she knew her, and her cheeks paled, and her case changed. Quoth he, O my sister, what aileth thee to wax wane and be troubled? And quoth she, O my brother, know that this young lady is the daughter of a sovereign of the Jann, of one of the many puissants of their kings, and her father had dominion over men and jinn and wizards and Kohens and tribal chiefs and guards and countries and cities and islands galore, and hath immense wealth in store. Our father is a viceroy and one of his vassals, and none can avail against him for the multitude of his many, and the extent of his empire, and the muchness of his monies. He hath assigned to his offspring the daughters thou sawest, a tract of country, a whole year's journey in length and breadth, a region girt about with a great river, and a deep, thereto none may attain, nor man, nor Jann. He hath an army of women, smiters with swords, and lungers with lances, 25,000 in number, each of whom, whenas she mounted steed and donneth battle gear, even 1,000 knights of the brave. Moreover, he hath 7 daughters, who in valor and prowess equal and even excel their sisters. And he hath made the eldest of them, the damsel whom thou sawest, queen over the country aforesaid, and who is the wisest of her sisters, and in valor and horsemanship and craft and skill, and magic excels all the folk of her dominions. The girls who company with her are the ladies of her court, and guards and grandees of her empire, and the plumed skins wherewith they fly are the handiwork of the enchanters of the Jann. Now an thou wouldst get possession of this queen, and wed this jewel seen, and enjoy her beauty and loveliness and grace, do thou pay heed to my words, and keep them in thy memory. They resort to this place on the first day of every month, and thou must take seat here and watch for them. And when thou seest them coming, hide thee near the pavilion, sitting where thou mayest see them, without being seen of them. And beware, again, beware, lest thou show thyself, or we shall all lose our lives. When they doff their dress, note which is the feather suit of her whom thou lovest, and take it, and only it. For this it is that carrieth her to her country, and when thou hast mastered it, thou hast mastered her. And beware, lest she wile thee, saying, O thou who hast robbed my raiment, restore it to me, because here am I in thine hands, and at thy mercy. For an thou give it to her, she will kill thee, and break down over us the palace and pavilion, and slay our sire. Know then thy case, and how thou shalt act. When her companions see that her feather suit is stolen, they will take flight and leave her to thee. And beware, lest thou show thyself to them, but wait till they have flown away, and she despaireth of them. Whereupon do thou go into her, and hale her by the hair of her head, and drag her to thee, which being done, she will be at thy mercy. And I rede thee, discover not to her that thou hast taken the feather suit, but keep it with care. For as long as thou hast it in hold, she is thy prisoner and in thy power, seeing that she cannot fly to her country save with it. And lastly, carry her down to thy chamber, where she will be thine. When Hassan heard her words, his heart began to be at ease, his trouble ceased, and the affliction left him. So he rose to his feet, and kissing his sister's head, went down from the terrace with her into the palace, where they slept that night. He medicined himself till morning, Morrow, and when the sun rose, he sprang up and opened the staircase door, and ascending to the flat roof, sat there till supper-tide, when his sister brought him up somewhat of meat and drink, and a change of clothes, and he slept. And thus he continued doing day by day until the end of the month. When he saw the new moon, he rejoiced, and began to watch for birds, and while he was thus, behold, up they came like lightning. As soon as he espied them, he hid himself where he could watch them, and watched by them. And they lighted down, one and all of them, and putting off their clothes, descended into the basin. All this took place near the stead where Hassan lay concealed, and as soon as he caught sight of the girl he loved, he arose and crept under cover, little by little, towards the dress, and all availed him so that none marked his approach, for they were laughing and playing with one another, till he laid hand on the dress. Now when they had made an end of their diversions, they came forth out of the basin, and each of them slipped on their feather suit. But the damsel he loved sought for her plumage that she might put it on, but found it not. Whereupon she shrieked and beat her cheeks and rent her raiment. Her sisterhood came to her and asked her what ailed her, and she told them that her feather suit was missing, wherefore they wept and shrieked and buffeted their faces, and they were confounded, wotting not the case and cause of this, and knew not what to do. Presently the night overtook them, and they feared to abide with her lest that it would fall unto them. So they farewelled her, and flying away left her alone on the terrace roof of the palace by the pavilion basin. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now when it was the 790th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Hassan had carried off the girl's plumery, she sought it but found it not, and her sisterhood flew away, leaving her alone. When they were out of sight, Hassan gave ear to her, and heard her say, O who hast taken my dress and stripped me? I beseech thee to restore it to me, and cover my shame, so may Allah never make thee taste of my tribulation. But when Hassan heard her speak thus, with speech sweeter than syrup, his love for her redoubled. Passion got the mastery of his reason, and he had not patience to endure from her. So springing up from his hiding place, he rushed upon her, and laying hold of her by the hair, dragged her to him, and carried her down to the basement of the palace, and set her in his own chamber, where he threw over her a silken cloak, and left her weeping and biting her hands. Then he shut the door upon her, and going to his sister, informed her how he had made prize of his lover, and carried her to his sleeping closet. And there, quoth he, she is now sitting weeping and biting her hands. When his sister heard this, she rose forthright, and betook herself to the chamber, where she found the captive weeping and mourning. So she kissed ground before her, and saluted her with a salam, and the young lady said to her, O king's daughter, do folk like you do such foul deeds with the daughters of kings? Thou knowest that my father is a mighty sovereign, and that all liege lords of the jinn stand in awe of him and fear his majesty, for that there are him magicians and sages, and Kohens and Satans and Marids, such as none may cope with all, and under his hand are folk whose number none knoweth save Allah. How then doeth thou become you, O daughters of kings, to harbour mortal men with you, and disclose to them our case and yours? Else how should this man, a stranger, come at us? Hassan's sister made reply, O king's daughter, in very sooth, this human is perfect in nobleness, and purposeth thee no villainy. But he loveth thee, and women were not made save for men. Did he not love thee? He had not fallen sick for thy sake, and well nigh given up the ghost for desire of thee. And she told her the whole tale, how Hassan had seen her bathing in the basin with her attendants, and fallen in love with her, and none had pleased him but she. For the rest were all her handmaids, and none had availed to put forth a hand to her. When the princess heard this, she despaired of deliverance, and presently Hassan's sister went forth, and brought her a costly dress, wherein she robed her. Then she set before her somewhat of meat and drink, and ate with her, and heartened with her heart, and soothed her sorrows. And she ceased not to speak her fair with soft and pleasant words, saying, Have pity on him, who saw thee once, and became as one slain by thy love. And continued to console her and caress her, quoting fair sayings and pleasant stanzas. But she wept till daybreak, when her trouble subsided, and she left shedding tears, knowing that she had fallen into the net, and that there was no deliverance for her. Then said she to Hassan's sister, O king's daughter, with this my strangerhood and severance from my country and sisterhood with Allah, wrote upon my brow, patience become me to support what my lord hath foreordained. Therewith the youngest princess assigned her a chamber in the palace, than which there were none goodlier, and ceased not to sit with her, and console her, and solace her heart, till she was satisfied with her lot, and her bosom was broadened, and she laughed, and there ceased from her no troubles and oppression possessed her, by reason of her separation from her people, and country, and sisterhood, and parents. Thereupon Hassan's sister repaired to him, and said, Arise, and go into her in her chamber, and kiss her hands and feet. So he went into her, and did this, and bussed her between the eyes, saying, O princess of fair ones, and life of sprites, and beholder's delight, be easy of heart, for I took thee only that I might be thy bondsman till the day of doom. In this my sister will be thy servant, for I, O my lady, desire not but to take thee to wife after the law of Allah, and the practice of his apostles, when as thou wilt I will journey with thee to my country, and carry thee to Baghdad city, and abide with thee there. Moreover, I will buy thee handmaidens and negro chattels, and I have a mother of the best of women, who will do thee service. There is no goodlier land than our land. Everything therein is better than elsewhere, and its folk are a pleasant people, and bright of face. Now as he bespake her thus, and strave to comfort her, what while she answered him not a syllable low, there came a knocking at the palace door. So Hassan went out to see who was at the door, and found there the 6 princesses, who had returned from hunting and birding, whereat he rejoiced, and went to meet them and welcome them. They wished him safety and health, and he wished them the like, after which they dismounted, and going each to their chamber, doffed their soiled clothes, and donned fine linen. Then they came forth and demanded the game, for they had taken a store of gazelles and wild cows and hares and lions and hyenas and others. So their suite brought out there some thereof for the butchering, keeping the rest by them in the palace. And Hassan girt himself and fell to slaughtering for them in due form, whilst they sported and made merry, joying with great joy to see him standing amongst them, hale and hearty once more. When they had made an end of slaughtering, they sat down and addressed themselves to get ready somewhat for breaking their fast. And Hassan, coming up to the eldest princess, kissed her head, and on like did to all the rest one after the other. Whereupon they said to him, Indeed, thou humblest thyself to us passing measure, O our brother, and we marvel at the excess of the affection thou showest us. But Allah forfend that thou shouldest do this thing, which it behoveth us rather to do, when thee seeing thou art a man, and therefore worthier than we, who are of the jinn. Thereupon his eyes brimmed with tears, and he wept sore. So they said to him, What causeth thee to weep? Indeed, thou troublest our pleasant lives with thy weeping this day. 'Twould seem thou longest after thy mother and native land. And things be so, we will equip thee, and carry thee to thy home and thy friends. He replied, By Allah, I desire not to part from you. Then they asked, Which of us hath vexed thee, that thou art thus troubled? But he is ashamed to say, Naught troubleth me, save love of the damsel, lest they should deny and disavow him. So he was silent, and would tell them nothing of his case. Then his sister came forward and said to them, He hath caught a bird from the air, and would have you help him to tame her. Whereupon they all turned to him and cried, We are at thy service, every one of us, and whatso thou seekest, that will we do. But tell us thy tale, and conceal from us naught of thy case. So he said to his sister, Do thou tell them, for I am ashamed before them, nor can I face them with these words. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 791st night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Hassan said to his sisters, Do thou tell them my tale, for before them I stand abashed, nor can I face them with these words. So she said to them, O my sisters, when we went away and left him this unhappy one, the palace was straitened upon him, and he feared lest some one should come in to him, for ye know the sons of Adam are light of wits. So he opened the door of the staircase leading to the roof of his loneliness and trouble, and sat there looking upon the wady, and watching the gate in his fear lest anyone should come thither. One day, as he sat thus, suddenly he saw 10 birds approaching him, making for the palace, and they lighted down on the brink of the basin which is in the pavilion terrace. He watched these birds, and saw amongst them one goodlier than the rest, which pecked the others and flouted them, whilst none of them dared not put out a claw to it. Presently they set their nails to their neck collars, and rending their feather suits, came forth therefrom, and became damsels, each and every one like the moon on fullest night. Then they doffed their dresses, and plunging into the water, fell to playing with one another, whilst the chief damsel tucked the others, who dared not lay a finger on her. And she was the fairest of favour, and most famous of form, and most fittest of finery. They ceased not to be in this case till near the hour of mid-afternoon prayer, when they came forth out of the basin, and donning their feather shifts, flew away home. Thereupon he waxed distracted with a heart of fire for love of the chief damsel, and repenting him that he had not stolen her plumery. Wherefore he fell sick, and abode in the palace roof, expecting her return, and abstaining from meat and drink and sleep, and he ceased not to do so till the new moon showed, when, behold, they came again, and made their appearance according to custom, and doffing their dresses went down into the basin. So he stole the chief damsel's feather suit, knowing that she could not fly save therewith, hiding himself carefully, lest they sight him and slay him. Then he waited till the rest had flown away, when he arose, and seizing the damsel, carried her down from the terrace into the castle. Her sisters asked, "Where is she?" And she answered, "She is with him in such chamber." Quoth they, "Describe her to us, O our sister." So quoth she, "She is fairer than the moon on the night of fullness, and her face is sheener than the sun. The dew of her lips is sweeter than honey, and her shape is straighter and slenderer than the cane. One with eyes black as night, and brow feather white, a bosom jewel bright breast like pomegranates twain, and cheeks like apples twain, a waist with dimples overlain, a navel like a casket of ivory full of musk and grain, and legs like columns of alabastine vine. She ravisheth all hearts with nature cold eyne, and a waist slender fine, and hips of heaviest design, and speech that heals all pain and pine. She is goodly of shape and sweet of smile, and as she were the moon in fullest sheen and shine." When the princesses heard these praises, they turned to Hassan and said to her, "Show her to us." So he arose with them, all love distraught, and carrying them to the chamber wherein was the captive damsel, opened the door, and entering, preceded the 7 princesses. Now when they saw her and noted her loveliness, they kissed the ground between her hands, marveling at the fairness of her favor, and the significance which showed her inner gifts, and said to her, "By Allah, O daughter of the Sovereign Supreme, this is indeed a mighty matter, and hadst thou heard tell of this mortal among women, thou hadst marveled at him all thy days. Indeed, he loveth thee with passionate love. Yet, O king's daughter, he seeketh not lewdness, but desireth thee only on way of lawful wedlock. Had we known that maids can do without men, we'd had impeached him from his intent, albeit he sent thee no messenger, but came to thee in person. And he telleth us he hath burnt the feather dress, else had we taken it from him." Then one of them agreed with the princess, and becoming her deputy in the matter of the wedding contract, performed the marriage ceremony between them, whilst Hassan clapped palms with her, laying his hands in hers, and she wedded him to the damsel by consent, after which they celebrated her bridal feast as beseemeth king's daughters, and brought Hassan into her. So he rose and rent the veil, and oped the gate, and pierced the forge, and brake the seal, whereupon affection for her waxed in him, and he redoubled his love and longing for her. Then, since he had gotten that which he sought, he gave himself joy, and improvised these couplets. Thy shape's temptation eyes as Ori's fain, and sheddeth beauty's sheen, that radiance rare. My glance portrayed thy glorious portraiture, rubies 1/2, and gems the 3rd part were, musk made a 5th, a 6th with ambergris, the 6th a pearl, but pearl without compare. Eve never bare a daughter evening thee, nor breathes like thee, and cooled celestial air. And thou would torture me, 'tis want of love, and if thou pardon, 'tis thy choice, I swear. Then, O world's brightener, and O end of wish, loss of thy charms, who could in patience bear? And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. And so do I cease my telling of this tale, till it be morrow.